times to pick to do that, I would imagine. Yeah, it doesn't get much better than watching it right now. We've got that weather. We're going to head you up with the latest on that coming up in just moments.
Weather and traffic. And the biggest stories of the day. We're talking about what matters most in West Michigan and beyond. This is the Big Three. Now, today's Big Three.
Yeah, the stories that matter most. We'll be talking about these around a water cooler at the dinner table, no matter where you are. Powered by our good friends at Heartland Home Mortgage. Dave Galloway and the team. Whether you buy, refi, home equity line of credit, we've done all three with Dave and the team, and we've saved thousands, right along with so many other folks that listen to this program as well. And you may be able to do the same. That's why we talk about them all the time. They help support this program. And like I said, you've got several different ways to save right now, and folks are looking at these interest rates, thinking to themselves, is now the time for me to take a look, especially with everything happening? Now the rates are lowering. Things are starting to move in the right direction, and you may be able to save a ton of dough. So yeah, reach out and find out. HHMlending.com and just start to get it headed in the right direction. Matter of fact, you may need something right away, and they may be able to get the job done for you at HHM Lending.
Number one.
Heartland Home Mortgage. Yeah, the biggest story is in the news today. Probably, weather for us locally has got to be the biggest, but watching worldwide continuing into the third week right now in the ongoing activities of war in Iraq is escalation underway. The conflict there continuing to ratchet up, and mostly now all of the big assets have been taken out when it comes to ships and boats, lots of missiles. Their air defenses completely been taken out. I mean, they've been annihilated. And the leadership, most of which is completely gone. Still question over whether or not the reigning new supreme leader is actually alive at this point. So details on that still a little sketchy, but the Strait of Hormuz now becomes the next piece, the next issue, where they move oil through. And the question is, will they be able to actually get that done? The president has a plan. Obviously, some countries decide they want to jump in and join us, some not, but he's asking everyone, allies, to get in and get the job done so they can keep that oil moving. Now, we have plenty of oil here. The question is going to be whether or not they want their oil there. Will they get involved, or will they see and, of course, pay through the nose for it? If you're paying too much for gas right now, I firmly believe it's some gouging going on. I think we get 0%. I think that's the actual number. 0% of our oil comes from Iran.
Number two.
And I said, well, it's a global market. You just don't understand. Sure. I understand what people want to make about it. I also understand when you're being lied to, you don't get the full story on some of the issues. Like this next one. Did you know that the Michigan synagogue attack last week, the man who carried it out, apparently, according to the IDF, this is the latest story, his brother was a Hezbollah commander. We had heard a little bit of trickle of this last week, but now it's been confirmed by a number of different sources that this is exactly what the IDF is saying. Now, News Nation posting this story as well. And again, as I mentioned, we kind of knew there was a little bit more than meets the eye to this. And so, you see the headlines, you wonder what would cause a guy to just go completely off the rails. Well, it turns out a lot more of that story that you're just not getting behind the scenes. 41-year-old was a naturalized U.S. citizen born in Lebanon, carried out that attack on Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, the other side of the state, last week. And his brother, a Hezbollah commander responsible for managing weapons operations in a special branch of the group's batter unit, killed an Israeli airstrike. And again, still no real understanding or idea of, what the motive could have been. Don't you find that hilarious as well? They always said, well, we don't know what the motive, we can't tell you what the motive was.
Number 3.
I think there were 3 guys last week involved in attacks, all named Muhammad at some point somewhere, and they just, well, I don't know what the motive is. Give me a break. TSA airport chaos continues. DHS funding issues underway. All of this as we watch these threats from a lot of these folks let into the country by Biden, by Obama, and of course, many of them here illegally as well, as Biden left that border wide open. If you are headed to the airport for spring break, expect long lines. That's what they're saying. In some cases, we're seeing up to 3 hours in some. I can't even imagine. Let alone they don't want to fund the people who are charged with protecting you and me from some of these threats that are clearly here and present as we speak. All right. Like I said, lots to keep your eye on weather-wise this morning. So here's what you need to know. That rain is turning into snow. We're going to see here closer to the Grand Rapids area anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. Now, this is what they say. Again, it could just end up being a light dusting, but it is far from a light dusting up north. They expect 3 to 4 feet. All of this to say, keep an eye on this because we'll be doing that for you, and keep an ear here so that you can stay up to date with the latest and know what you need to know when it comes to school closing and other activities, etc.
Call Justin now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
A winter storm warning in effect for parts of West Michigan until tomorrow midday. Potential totals reaching higher in those warning zones. They say in some areas 11 inches. Some places they can actually hear me right now. That's just wild to imagine, wild to think about, but it is. It's in the forecast, so we might as well keep you up to date with the latest on that. Okay. Now let me get to a couple of stranger stories, some stranger things from over the weekend. Have you been paying attention? What in the world? I saw I had to post this yesterday. What in the world is going on with Tucker Carlson? What in the world is happening? There is some question whether or not, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, but it actually came out of Tucker himself. I think he mentioned this on a video online over the weekend. Tucker Carlson, and the question is Tucker going to jail? Now, this is why this whole thing is breaking, because he's come out and broken. He's come out and broken this story. He claims in a video released over the weekend that the CIA has been reading his text messages and preparing to frame him. Now, I have to tell you, like, folks, I like Tucker. But I also know there are more sides to a single story than his or mine, for that matter. You shouldn't, take anybody's word. Just take your word for it. No, I mean, I call on you to actually do some due diligence, do some research, dig in, look at the story, and find out. There have been some people lately whose brains seem to be broken and just gone completely off the wall on some things lately. Now, you may have noticed this as well, but if you're not solidly paying attention to the things on every single aspect of these stories, and some of these people with podcasts and shows, et cetera, then you may be unplugged and not really familiar. So you may be asking yourself this morning, how is Tucker going to jail? Well, in the video, he believes the CIA has been reading his text message, he says, and preparing to frame him for a crime. Now, how would that be possible? How would that happen? There's some thought that Tucker has been talking to, or had been at least, talking to folks in Iran or members of intelligence or that were involved in Iran. And to play some of this for you, you're going to be able to hear some of what he's had to say on this. And I'm gonna break down the other side, which I find kind of interesting. A lot of this is just speculation today, so you got to understand that. But this is what he's.
The other day, I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report, to the Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war.
Now, if he really did this and he shared intelligence or information, this is a serious crime. He has been lobbying, and I don't mean that in the sense he's getting money, but he may be getting money. I don't know, but he has been lobbying on behalf of the just essentially no intervention. I'm trying to say this the best way I can. No intervention of the American military in Iran. Now, some might look at that and say, like, well, he's playing for Iran. Like, what? Well, and that apparently appears to be what the DOJ is going to take a look at. Why this criminal referral? He's found himself caught up in this mess. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how I think that happened here in a second.
They read my texts.
How did they read his text, though? The way he presents this, and the way that I bring this up is because, look, I do this for a living. I've done this for decades. Tucker knows what he's doing. What he's saying to you is he's presenting a story here that he was spied on like he was the target. And that may be true. Although I think what is more likely, again, I like Tucker, but what I think is more likely is the fact that someone he was talking to was a target of this CIA investigation or maybe it was another group. I don't know. But the intelligence was being gathered, people he was talking to. And therefore, and I'm trying to put this as neutral as possible. I already see some of these comments from some of you people whose brains are broken in the chat already. Just know that we laugh at you because I love you, but at the same time, you don't understand what you're saying. You don't make any sense. So if he's talking via text to someone who is a target of an investigation, all that gets scooped up. And that is apparently whether you like it or not, that's what happened. What was said in those texts and what happened further is going to be the question of this investigation. I'm going to tell you, I don't think Tucker's going to jail. I really don't. I don't have all the information on this, though. So I can't necessarily form an opinion on it fully without having all the information. But I think what Tucker is doing in this announcement is he's getting out in front of it. And he's framing it because this is the thing. The first one to the show is the one who gets the prize. There's the first one who gets out there, gets their story out first is the one. So now we're hearing from here. We're hearing his side of the story.
So the crime under consideration apparently would be the Foreign Agent Act or something like that, acting as an agent of a foreign power.
Well, are you taking money from foreign countries? And the question about Qatar and some of these other, I think those are valid questions. You're being paid, you're being influenced in some way by all of the influencers, including me, folks. You don't think people they try, and I try to be as middle of the road, as shooting from the hip as possible, but you know, it's you're human. Even if you do your best, you're going to be influenced, whether it's by your opinions, your own thoughts, your beliefs from your past. It could be any number of things, but you're going to be influenced. And those people that are influential, I said this a couple of years back. Who's influencing the influencers? You gotta understand this. Tucker Carlson leaves Fox News. When he was at Fox News, the people that influenced him were the ones writing his paycheck. Same thing now. Now, I know Tucker's got some of his own money, But he continues to do this podcast so he could just, sort of disappear in Maine or in Florida or wherever he wants to go, into the woods, do whatever he wants to do. Now, Tucker says maybe he doesn't want to do some of that. Maybe he feels called to do what he's doing. And I can understand that as well. So people have different motivations. They have different reasons driving them. But at the same time, there is a reason behind this, and actually it involves Trump. Well, people are talking about this now. I want to share with you what some believe may have happened. And like I said, it involves Trump, who may have actually used Tucker, knowing that this was happening behind the scenes. And this story is, it actually makes it even wilder to hear this whole thing. But the latest, what people think is actually going down behind the scenes, I want to get to that coming up. Just wait. We'll be back with it. Hang on, folks. Again, don't believe anything you see and half of what you hear. I'm telling you, at this point, the fog of war with everything going on every single day, you've got to really strongly examine it all and make sure you're not being fed a load each and every time. There's a lot at stake. Back with more. Is Tucker going to jail? And what may have happened behind the scenes that make this whole thing even wilder next? Hang on. A little bit later on this morning, and there's lots of question about the price of oil and everything else and how things are going to react. Obviously, we're watching some green this morning on the screen as futures are bouncing up 350 points to start the week. Oil prices falling back down to $95 a barrel, and it can feel every single day the up and down like a roller coaster ride. I know. We're all watching it play out, and we all have the same thoughts, questions, considerations. And you might be wondering, what the heck am I supposed to do when it comes to my retirement? Well, you don't want to feel like you're on that roller coaster ride. You don't want to feel nauseous. You don't want to feel the ups and downs. And I get it. That's why reach out to folks at guardingyournestegg.com. Mike Lester and the team willing to help you, walk you through the heart of a teacher, and show you the way to go. They take a holistic approach. So whether you want to retire today, tomorrow, 10, 20 years down the road, Mike Lester and the team have you in great hands. Go to guardingyournestegg.com, but do it today before it's too late. Guardingyournestegg.com or call 616-661-1000.
Setting the record straight. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM and on demand anytime on the Art Radio app.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Monday, March 16th. I'm Robin Poffman. Governor Whitmer bragging about adding 13 new jobs in Michigan after our state has lost 20,000 so far this year. More than 70% of job losses in the Midwest are right here in Michigan. In other news, the Democrat governor telling a BlackRock audience we have started to look at the possibility of some toll roads in Michigan. Governor Whitmer insists she's getting the job done on infrastructure. And an illegal alien from Venezuela charged with resisting arrest after grabbing a federal agent's gun during a fight at a Sam's Club in Metro Detroit. He's also accused of injuring 2 investigators. If convicted, the 33-year-old facing up to 20 years in federal prison. This illegal entering the country in 2024 thanks to the wide-open border during the Biden administration. For these stories and more, visit The Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
For more than 70 years, Michigan businesses have depended on EPS security. We designed.
Good morning, folks. Got to make a quick turn here, and we don't have a producer in studio today, so things are a little different. So I'm trying to do everything I can to make sure I got you covered. So good morning. Let's say good morning quickly, if I can, to Dina. Gritter, good to see you. Awesome, interesting photos coming in this morning from the snow. Hemi, good to see you too. Panda, Patriot Dean, over on Rumble. Let's see who else we got chiming in this morning. Good to see you. SJ, Trish, BKWV, Julianne, Jen Lynn, Jeremiah, Tree Frog, thank you so much. On Facebook, Sherry, Joanne, Brian, thank you, Jessica, thank you, Bonnie. Good morning on the tube. We see Tamara, good to see you. Lots of folks jumping in on X as well. Thank you guys for jumping in on the program. Here we go, back at it, and I'm going to try to do my best to wrap this story if I can, but we got news, so it's going to be a tough one, I can tell you that much. Best way I can put this story, and like I said, it involves Trump. I'm going to have to take a break for the bottom of the hour news and tell you what I believe may have been an evil genius plot, if it's true, that involved Tucker. I really don't think he's going to go to jail. But I will say, if all the reports are true, boy, it's wild to watch what may have happened behind the scenes. And Trump playing this thing out. You often hear about this 3D chess, and he's playing chess. Everybody else plays checkers. This would be proof of that, and it's wild. Hang on, we're back after bottom of the hour news.
West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Our 2026 iHeart Podcast Awards are happening live at South by Southwest.
And the winner is...
Watch live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, free at Veeps.com or the Veeps app.
This is the biggest night in podcasting.
All right, folks, hang on. Just making sure our news gets on. There we go. He's good to go. And Charles, I'm looking for a name, but I don't have it here. I just have a subject on the guy, but he should be calling any moment now. All righty then. A little bit more. Let's play a little bit more from Tucker so you can hear what he had to say. Here's that clip.
And I don't expect this to go anywhere. I'm not too worried about an actual criminal case against me for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power. Unlike a lot of people commenting on U.S. politics and global affairs, I have only one loyalty, and that's the United States, and have never acted against it. Its interests are the only interests I care about because I'm from here and I have a lot of kids. So that's not a concern. I've also never taken money from anybody. Don't need it, don't want it, and that's provable. And moreover, it's my job to talk to everybody all the time and try and figure out what's happening around the world. That's literally what I do for a living, and I'm not going to stop doing that, nor should I don't think. I'm also an American. I can talk to anybody. I have no secrets to divulge. So,
yeah, well, you got to remember, I'm coming at this from the standpoint, I like Tucker. I like Tucker. But he seems kind of nervous in this video, and I understand. I would be too. And Terry, I don't think it's a master plan for Ray. It could be, but I don't really think this is going to make people watch his show more. I think people that like Tucker are going to like Tucker. In fact, once they hear the flip side of the story, I think they may. It doesn't make him look good. Here's the one thing I would just be careful of. There's another, and I got a little bit more of this. So hang on, let me play some more of this out here in just a second. But there's another piece of this right now, and it's from some of the usual suspects. Like, they're all in the same camp. They're going, they're only targeting Tucker because they know he could run for president and win in 2028. No, I don't think Tucker wins. I like him. I just don't think he wins for president. Same thing with the comments about Charlie Kirk. A lot of people think that Charlie Kirk was taken out because he could have been the president in 2028. He could have ran. He could have won. And that's just not I just don't believe that to be the case. I don't think Charlie could have won in 2028. I do believe Charlie could have been the president at some point. But I just don't believe that he would have been the president in 2028. Now, Jessica, just remember that's the goal. Jessica's saying, honestly, it's making me not like Trump. Just remember that's the goal. The goal's not to make you not like Tucker or make you not like Candace or make you not like any of these people who really don't have any sort of, sway or power. Podcasters and streamers were one thing, but the audience just isn't nearly what it used to be for a lot of these folks. Stand by. Hang on one second. All right. Just remember, everything you're watching is designed as it has been. We got him on line one. Yeah, we got him. Everything you're watching is designed to, as it has been since he came down the golden escalator, to get you to stop liking Trump. Just remember that. If you choose to continue to feel the same way, that's
excluding tax and fees.
Hey, it's Glenn Beck, and you're listening to West Michigan Live with our good friend Justin Barclay. The Glenn Beck program coming up at 10 on Wood Radio.
All right, so this is probably the craziest part of the story. Tucker Carlson, is he going to jail? Again, I don't think so.
The other day, I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report to the Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war.
I like Tucker, so this has to come with that caveat, that preemptive piece. I like him. But I will also tell you that some of this is really interesting, and we're going to see how it plays out. I don't think Tucker's going to jail, though. So the story is Tucker apparently found himself on a text message with somebody that the United States was spying on, likely someone within the Iranian government or intelligence community in the Middle East, etc. And they found out that Tucker was talking back and forth with these folks. Again, whether he was like giving information, intelligence, etc., is going to be the question. The DOJ will have to decide if he broke any laws. I just don't think. I don't see the world where he ends up going to jail. I don't see that. But what I do say is I think some of this is serious. Whether he was accepting money from foreign governments, it's possible. I think he's probably smarter than that. So I would think that that's probably not the case. Now, he said that it isn't in the video. But on top of it, I think that Tucker really ideologically feels the way that he does here. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he messed up because he thought he was doing the right thing, and that backfired. So here's the story. This is what is probably the most interesting piece of this to me, anyway. I think this is bigger than with Tucker going to jail. So here's what happens. He is wound up in this wiretap somewhere. And somebody in the Trump administration finds out, Trump finds out, and then the plan now becomes we're going to use Tucker to help us accomplish what we need to accomplish. And so do you remember when Tucker was at the White House with the president a few weeks ago? Because there was all this about Tucker being very critical about the president, and then all of a sudden he shows up at the White House and he's in the Oval Office, and people are just like, what's going on there? Tucker and Trump together in the Oval? What was the story? So now we're finding out, at least that's what it sounds like, is that whoever put this together, at least the plan was, that Tucker would be invited to the Oval Office. Trump would drop some small piece of intel, and it would be this. No, we're not going to attack Iran. We're still in the negotiations. We're not going to do it. And the thought is, the theory anyway, that this put the Iranis at ease and then allowed for the strikes to occur, and then those 50 of the top to be taken out. If that's the case, and it sounds as equally as likely as any other story we're hearing. But again, like I said, folks, fog of war and everything else, you got to take all of this with a grain of salt. Every single bit, even things I say, because I don't know. I try to get it right as much as I can. You got to take all of this with a grain of salt and do your due diligence, do your homework. And then a lot of it is patience. I kind of do this right. I hear things, I put them up on a shelf and I say, that's interesting. I'll come back to it later. But if that's the case, then this was pretty wild. If Trump used Tucker, brought him into the Oval Office to slide him that little piece, knowing that it would make it back to the Iranians and they would stand down, so to speak, let their guard down, then that's wild. Terry, I don't think he's irritating the powers that be. I don't think there's any sort of conspiracy like Tucker was getting too close to the truth. I don't think any of that. It's very convenient to say that kind of thing. I just don't think that's real. That's just not. I just don't think that's it. But I'm telling you, like I said, this is one of the most interesting stories of the day. Now, at the same time, we know that government will go too far. In fact, we've seen it before. We don't have to look much further than what's happened the last few years. Not just in the federal government, where we see, the FBI, targeting, traditional Catholics, targeting parents going to school board meetings. And right here in our own backyard in Michigan, we've seen it play out. In fact, the alternate electors case, you probably remember, at length we've talked about this case. Our very own weaponized attorney general, the alternate electors, they were run through the ringer. One of the guys actually died during this whole process. And I know many of these folks. They're good people. There is a history of alternate electors. And in fact, we don't have to go, I think, maybe ring through all of that as much as to tell you that now we know that there will be it looks like going to be a lawsuit. In fact, that just a couple of days ago, we learned this news. We shared it with you. A case file notice of intent to sue the attorney general, and the attorney that is overseeing this right now, Eric Cardle's on the phone with us right now. Thank you, sir, for taking the time. This story we have followed throughout the entirety of it. And like I said, we know these folks that are involved in this case. What happened to them is absolutely horrific. It's abhorrent. And to think that it can happen here in America, and in fact, in our own backyard, is shocking. But I guess it shouldn't be. We've seen through history how some of these things have happened. But this one is one that these folks, it looks like, are going to come out on the other side better for it because they're going to make sure through this lawsuit that maybe that it doesn't ever happen again, or at least there's some accountability. What's the goal?
Absolutely. Well, the goal is of course, justice. And I thank you for paying attention and informing your audience of all the things that have occurred in the Michigan electors case. But the information I have through Judicial Watch's investigation, their documents are on the website. Judicial Watch for Michigan, Arizona, and Wisconsin is that the 501c3s, the progressive 501c3s, were pushing the prosecutions. They had contracts with the respective attorney general's offices in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. So I kind of wash, rinse, and repeat. They were basically creating this fabrication of a story. This is the progressive nonprofits, that these people were criminal wrongdoers. And they were inside the attorney general's offices, really advocating, zealously pushing for, providing legal advice memos regarding the prosecution. And so it really comes down to how much of this are we going to tolerate, that our independent prosecutors are captured by progressive organizations and basically led by the nose to prosecute our fellow citizens.
Yeah, a very good point. And does that help the case at all that there was this outside influence, it sounds like?
Yeah, I think part of the problem is, this outside influence, by contract, right? So we know Michigan had a contract with the States United Democracy Center, the Soros-funded group. In Arizona, we have a document where they actually are evaluating the charges against the Arizona electors for specific violations of Arizona criminal law. So imagine this nonprofit under a contract with the Arizona Attorney General's office is providing legal advice, pushing for a prosecution. Now in Arizona, we have that document. Michigan, we don't have it yet. But you really can't have, the Attorney General hiring outside groups with political opponents, recklessly promoting charges against political opponents. It's bad, bad, bad. And, these documents that aren't produced in discovery during the criminal proceeding, so they're due process violations and other constitutional violations as well. So we're headed to federal court. It'd be nice if Attorney General Nussle would just put 52 cards on the table with respect to her relationships with the 501c3s regarding the prosecution of Michigan electors. But, we'll probably have to go into litigation to get those documents.
Eric Cardle with us right now, the attorney overseeing all this. Now, you mentioned justice, and I want to see that too. The accountability in this situation and what happened to these people is just incredible. Not just the money that they had to spend to defend themselves, but also the time and all of the anguish. In fact, that one of them passed away during all of this, and I can't help but think what that did to him during that situation.
Yeah, it's horrific being charged in this way. But Winston Churchill said nothing's unintentional in politics and war. And here we can, Minnesota and particularly Michigan, we can include prosecutions of Republican electors. So this wasn't like the Attorney General's office and Howard Schock and the others doing it alone. There was a well-fueled, well-resourced 501c3 that had a contract with the Michigan Attorney General's office. And they were working on this. And I'm, of course, relying on the evidence I have that they were doing similar things in Wisconsin and Arizona. And Arizona, they have the smoking gun memo. Literally, the charges were indicated by the 501c3. Here's a charge we need to bring against this GOP elector. Here's the one we need to bring against this GOP elector. And the same thing happened in Michigan, I'm sure of it. And so we need to probably get into litigation or discovery. I know other organizations like Judicial Watch are trying to get to the bottom of it by getting the documents. But this wasn't a Michigan prosecution. This was a prosecution that was developed and implemented outside the Michigan Attorney General's office by a 501c3.
Yeah, this is some very damning smoking gun information. And I really do hope that these folks get their day in court and get the justice that they deserve because, what happened to them is just absolutely unthinkable. And as I mentioned, we know many of them and they're good people. They're fine people. And what they did was absolutely legal and part of what we've seen play out in history before. So thank you. So will you come back and give us more updates on this case as it rolls along?
Absolutely. We need to keep your audience educated because it's the most important thing ever, the corruption of the prosecution function against political opponents. Can't think of anything worse.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I couldn't agree more. Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eric Cardle is the attorney there with that case, following that up, seeing through. And again, like I said, folks, never a dull moment. But these folks, a few years back, I mean, they had their whole lives turned upside down, and boy, how the tables have turned, haven't they? Yeah. More on that as it continues to develop. We got more coming up to the fastest hour on radio is flying by. Back with you after this. It's West Michigan Live, watching the storms. Well, all throughout the state in various forms, that rain turning into snow, and how much we'll get is still up for debate, but boy, oh boy, could get dicey throughout the day. So stick with us on Wood Radio.
Breaking down the story. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Monday, March 16th. I'm Robin Poffman. The Fayette Township Board paving the way to use more than 1,300 acres of farmland for a solar power plant. Residents continue to voice their opposition to this project. Check out all the details on this ongoing issue at themidwesterner.news. Michigan Senator Democrat Alyssa Slotkin voting on Capitol Hill against funding the Department of Homeland Security just 20 minutes before the terrorist attack on the Michigan synagogue. The DHS funding bill not passing by a vote of 51 to 46. A terrorist driving his truck loaded with explosives into Temple Israel in West Bloomfield. Luckily, none of the teachers or 100 students inside were hurt. And if things aren't costing you enough money, Governor Whitmer telling a BlackRock audience, we've started to look at the possibility of some toll roads in Michigan. Governor Whitmer insists she's getting the job done on infrastructure. For these stories and more, visit the Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
Brett Paquito of Wood Radio here with one question.
Toll roads. That's all we need here. Oh, my goodness. That's all we need in Michigan. I bet you ran on fixing those roads nearly 8 years ago and still can't get it done. Now she wants toll roads. Oh, my goodness. It doesn't get any better. You can't make this stuff up. All right, folks, stand by. Back on the air here in just a moment. We got quick short breaks today, so that's good. Hang on. Gonna get into the after show stuff too in just moments. We got lots to discuss right here. Don't go anywhere. About 20 seconds till we're back on the air. Rolling right along the fastest hour in radio. We have an after show planned for you coming up in just moments. We'll get to that. It's a show after the show. That's right. Yeah, we've been asked. You asked for it. You demand it. We're giving the people what they want. Can't always get to the stories that we've got on the show every day. Can't always get to them. Well, that's why we do our best to make sure we hand them to them during the after show. But today, we're powered by the Good Feet store, and every day, whether it's on the air or on the way to do something fun with the kids. We were down in Florida, like I said, a couple of weeks back with the first trip with these girls that they've ever been on, and it was incredible. Love to hang out with them and have so much fun. Look, whether it's fun trips to Florida, a little bit of a spring break family vacation, walking the beaches in comfort and confidence, or playing mini golf like we did yesterday. We had a little fun birthday party celebration with some family, and on your feet all day long, whether it's at work or play. Make sure you're feeling comfortable and confident as you do it with the folks at the Good Feet store. Walk in 28th Street right there in front of Costco in Portage on West Edge in front of Colson. They'd be happy to walk you through what they do. Customized art supports just for you. They're personalized, rather. And I will tell you that I I can't imagine going back to the old way of doing things. Maybe it's just some things you've been putting off. Well, it's time to step into comfort and confidence today with the Good Feet store. Don't wait any longer. Don't delay. Do it today. All right. You should see the comments. We've got some interesting comments already for the show today coming in hot on this Tucker conversation. Again, I don't think he's going to jail, but I do think it's going to get interesting for Tucker. And if the story that I just shared turns out to be true, that Trump was sort of part of this and used Tucker to accomplish what he wanted to, boy, that shows you just a whole nother level. And by the way, I don't think that's a bad thing against Trump. I just think this shows you a whole nother level of brilliance in the planning to get this thing done in Iran and the willingness to do things that have just never been done before. Meanwhile, in Detroit, we find 400 stolen cars worth $40 million smuggled from Michigan to the Middle East. Is being shown on social media now everywhere. The story out of Dearborn. Some of the latest, some of the freakiest. And some of these cars aren't like supercars or anything. They just look like regular, average, everyday cars. But they were pulled off of big trucks and cargo containers, etc. And the story continues to unfold right now as we got another big bust, at least it seems, and the details on it. The crime and everything that goes along with it. Boy, that's a whole nother piece of it, isn't it? It's a whole nother piece of what we're seeing. With whether it's legal, naturalized citizens over the last week or so we saw, or children of committing some of these crazy crimes, or folks that are here illegally. It's being described as a third worlder fraud scheme, smuggling 400 of those stolen cars, $40 million in value to the Middle East. Eric Daughtry over on X writes, several Mohammeds were criminally charged. Deport them all. Ban third world migration is what he's posted. This is the point, is that this type of thing isn't unusual. It isn't rare, and it is unfortunate. It is very, very, very unfortunate. And at the end of the day, again, it's par for the course. Another one of these sad situations. Hey, I got news about the SAVE Act. Senator Mike Lee thinks we may have turned a corner. I'll talk to you about that. Coming up in the after show, we'll dig into the latest stories there. Plus, we got some good news I want to make sure that we share with you as well. And the stories that you just won't hear anywhere else. Now, for some of that good news, 104 years old, sitting on his porch in this video, former Winston-Salem, North Carolina firefighter Robert Greer just got the surprise of his life. And he's lived a long one, 104 years. Can you imagine what this guy sees? He looks good. He looks healthy, like he's in good shape, great shape for that ripe old age of 104. Dozens of fire trucks rolled up in a full parade right to his front porch just to celebrate his 104th birthday. And the story, as I mentioned, is one that'll put a smile on your face today as we say happy birthday to this young man who's celebrating 104. It's a little better than being put on the jelly camera, the Smucker's Al Roker jelly camera today. A little better. A massive amount of fire trucks by there at his home, at his front porch to say happy. Now, he was one, the story on him is really fascinating. He's one of 8 black firefighters ever to join the fire department in Winston-Salem, and he served over, I think, 30 years. Come on. Holy cow. And imagine, 104 years old, there he is. He joined the Winston-Salem Fire Department in 1951, more than a decade before racial segregation was outlawed in the United States. When asked if it was hard to integrate, he said, matter of fact, I think we had fun integrating. We all got together and decided we were going to do this. What most legacy media outlets leave out, however, is that Greer said that his unit never fought about race. They started each day with a devotion and a prayer. The only answer I know is trust in God, he says, and do what you're supposed to do. Love each other even though you're rejected as we were. He said, just keep going and ignore it. Guess who wins? You win. You put God in front of you and you go forward. You won't hear this on the legacy media today. Happy birthday. 4 years. He'll teach you lessons today. It's all learned. That's it. Back to more tomorrow. Glenn program is coming up next. Make it a great one. This story and the others from today, all on the stack. Nice to work today. All right, folks, we'll kick the after show into high gear. Here we go. Just got to click a few buttons. Here we go. Stand by. Get ready to strap in. It's going to be a heck of a ride. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Never a dull moment, but yes, you'll hear the stories you won't hear anywhere else, and we appreciate you being here with us for them today. I'm Justin Barclay. Welcome into the after show, folks. It's the show after the show. Watching the behind-the-scenes live stream. We appreciate you being here with us for it, folks. Click share if you haven't already done it so far today. We need your help breaking that algorithm, specifically on Facebook. And Facebook can be a bear. You know, sometimes they let our stuff go out. Sometimes they don't. Lately, it's been kind of funky. And that algorithm, as you know, these are stories they don't want you to hear. So make sure we get to we could use some more shares out there. I'll let you pick something from the store. If you do share right now, somebody at the end of the show will get something cool from the Justin store. By the way, you can shop around at justinbarclay.com. Got some big news, programming notes. Shared this for folks in the VIP last week, but I'll let you know today. We're bringing it back. The Fireside Chat is back and with a vengeance. Tomorrow night, 8:30. Tomorrow night at 8:30, and we're going to be live here, wherever you're watching, and then of course we'll do a little bit more in depth on the VIP Freedom Fam at justinbarclay.com/locals if you want to come hang out there as well. But this is a long time coming. We wanted to bring the Fireside Chat back for some time now. And I will tell you, I've kind of missed it. And I don't even remember why we stopped doing it so much. I think it was doing the morning show, and then we just had so much going on at one point. It like something had to give. You know, it's like, all right, well, let's pull back somewhere. And so that's what happened. But now, like I said, I want to bring it back and at least At least, anyway, I would think. You'll get a chance to see what this is all about and be a part of it. If you haven't done this yet, it'll be kind of fun. We talk about all kinds of things, and there's no like real structure to the fireside chat. Now, I probably won't be outside with a fire tomorrow because it's kind of. I think depending on how much snow we get, right? Anyway, but this is going to be a blast. You can ask me anything. We have these great conversations, and they go all over the place. That's going to be fun. Again, tomorrow night at 8:30, Tuesday night, 8:30. And thank you all for sharing the program today. All right, let's get into some of these stories. Some of the ones that we didn't get a chance to do earlier. How about this one for Tech Tuesday? We're lining up a few of these. Here's a wild one. 143 million people thought they were playing a game. I don't know if you ever got into the Pokemon. This is something I just don't. I mean, I understand it. I get why these kids were into this, but it's just not something that I was ever a part of. We're into it all. But if you're running around, some of these people with their phones trying to catch these Pokemon, you were being used to build one of the largest real-world visual data sets in AI history. Niantic just disclosed, and we'll talk about this tomorrow on the Tech Tuesday segment with our good friend Tradbot. Niantic just disclosed that photos and AR scans collected through Pokemon Go have produced a data set of over 30 billion real-world images. The company is now using that data to power visual navigation AI for delivery robots. Players didn't just walk around with their phones. They scanned landmarks, storefronts, parks, and sidewalks from every angle at every time of day in lighting and weather conditions that stage photography would never have captured. The documents, they caught the physical world at scale no mapping company with a fleet of vehicles could have replicated on the same timeline or budget, they say. Niantic collected this systematically, data point by data point across 8 years, while users thought the only thing at stake was catching a rare Charizard, which I don't even know what that is. It sounds like something I don't even want to think about. What happened? Well, I Charizard. I Charizard myself. That's the worst. It's the worst. Again, I can't wrap my head around some of this stuff. The most valuable AI training data sets in the world aren't being assembled in data centers. They're being built by people, they say, who have no idea they're building them. It's just crazy. Here's the report on it. I'm not going to play the whole thing. We'll save some of this for tomorrow. I understand because I have a surface understanding of what happened with this and why it was so popular. Just like the Pokemon cards are so popular, stuff like that. There's never something I ever had any interest in. Had Jason said a Charizard is a fire-breathing dragon thing. Well, it sounds very, very fitting, very, very similar to what I just mentioned. Oh, you guys didn't mention anything. Said no sound. You didn't miss anything. Sorry about that. We'll fix it. A woman with a heavy, thick accent. Let's just show you what you didn't miss. This is what it sounded like.
Every Pokestop photo, every IR snapshot, every
You didn't miss anything. Thank you for the heads up on the sound, though. Oh, Charizard. We didn't have any sound. I don't know. Yeah, no producer, no sound, Gritter. We got to cut costs somewhere. That's how this works. What do you think? We're getting money from Iran? What do you think? I'm some sort of Oh, I just enough of poking the bear today. I won't do any more. We'll just keep it. We'll just kind of scale it back a little bit. I'll keep it as nice as possible here. Hey, here's some good news though. Senator Mike Lee says we've turned the corner on the SAVE Act. This from Zero Hedge. I hope this is true. I hope they're able to get this done. I don't have a lot of faith in Senator Thune and the majority leader. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I'm the only one here. I just don't have a lot of faith in the guy. But Mike Lee, who I do like a lot, says we've turned a corner on the Save America Act. Last week, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he will not sign any new legislation until the Senate passes this, calling it his top priority ahead of them. It is. If you don't get this done, it's an 80-20. It's an 80-20 deal. I mean, 80% of the people in this country say, yeah, you should have voter ID. You should have to show your ID to vote. And you should be a citizen. Obviously, this is the law, but this is not necessarily a law that's followed. And we're all too familiar with this in Michigan. We know the story. We know the score here. So it's Mike Lee and Chip Roy on this. Couple of good guys introducing this in January, requiring proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote and the government-issued photo ID to vote. It also requires state to purge non-citizens from existing voter rolls, which they really should be doing as it is now, but they don't. You get folks like Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State, the most lawless Secretary of State in the history of this country, or the state, rather. Maybe even the country. Katie Hobbs is right up there with her. But, you know, if you think about the things that she's done and what we've seen play out, they don't care. They don't care if they're breaking the law. She doesn't care. She knows there's nothing going to happen to her. Why would she care? Why would she do anything to purge those rolls? That's where her bread is buttered. She's not getting rid of that. So unless you have a law like this, and it's 80-20 policy, folks, this is what people think is common sense and needs to happen. It's realistic. It's rational. Despite Trump's threat, Zero Hedge goes on to say Senate Majority Leader John Thune has expressed reluctance to change the filibuster. On Monday, though, he made it very clear there was no way he was going to do it. Yeah, that's just not going to happen, he said. But Senator Mike Lee now thinks the Save America Act may finally be getting somewhere. Lee, the lead sponsor of the legislation, posted a video update Friday night announcing that he believes we've turned a corner. After weeks of uncertainty about procedure, Lee said he and Thune have been working through the options and could bring the bill on the floor for real debate, not just a choreographed vote designated to fail. Now, I know Lee was on with Glenn last week. I know he talked about it, so you might want to go back and listen to some of that he talked about. Here's what he says. Important update on the Save America Act and the effort to get it passed. Lee said, look, I am guardedly optimistic we've kind of turned a corner. Over the last few days, there's been some uncertainty about exactly what procedure we will be and we will not be using. In the end, we've been working closely with the leader and his staff, and they've been great to work with. What we're coming up with is something that I think is the best described as a hybrid version of the talking filibuster. Under the Senate's standard rules, passing most legislation requires 60 votes to end debate, a threshold Democrats have made clear they have no intention of helping Republicans reach. The talking filibuster approach would flip the dynamic. Instead of requiring 60 votes to advance, it would require opponents to physically hold the Senate floor and debate the bill for hours or days on end. That should happen. The problem is, of course, Thune has made it clear that he believes the conference lacks the unity to pull it off. Here's some of Mike Lee last Friday.
Okay. On the Save America Act and the effort to get it passed. Look, I am guardedly optimistic. We've turned kind of a corner. Over the last few days, there's been some uncertainty about exactly what procedure we will be and will not be using. In the end, we've been working closely with Leader Thune and his staff, and they've been great to work with. What we're coming up with is something that I think is best described as a hybrid version of the talking filibuster. But look, let's not get mired down in nomenclature. What matters far more than what we call it is what we do with it. We're going to bring it to the floor. We're going to debate it for an extended period of time before filing cloture. And in my view, at least, I don't want to speak for anyone else, this bill needs to remain on the Senate floor before we file cloture on the bill for as long as it takes to get it done. Now, the fact that Leader Thune and his office have been willing to work with us on this, and they appear open to a variation of that, is a good thing. So let's keep up the momentum. Let's encourage them to continue to do this. Let's put the bill on the floor. Let's make those who want to filibuster speak and keep it on there as long as possible. Thanks so much.
Gritter, I would agree. Gritter says it's not 80-20. He says it's more like 95-5. I think you're probably right. If you ask people, well, you also have to account for a certain amount of craziness. And there are crazies. In fact, there are crazies on both sides. We know that. But particularly on the left, there's some real wackos that it doesn't matter what you say. Unless it's a free pony for everybody, they're not voting for it. And if you ask them about things that Obama did and you say Trump did it, they'll say, oh, it's horrible. We've seen those videos floating around of people. Oh, it's just horrible. I can't believe it. I just can't believe. Why? No, this is Obama did this. Well, it's still, they can't, when they're confronted with it, they can't deal with it. Hey, I saw a clip, and I haven't been able to find this. This was last night, I think I saw on CNN, Harry Enton delivering some bad news. As much as they're trying to, and I told you earlier, all of this nonsense that we see right now is designed to attack Trump's popularity, his numbers, the polling, and pull people off the base, pull people off and away from it. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. There are some people that just that weren't maybe like all in, that were voting with Trump because they just felt like he was the only way to get to where they wanted to go. But at the end of the day, it's hard to pull them off. And I saw Harry Enton on CNN last night, and if I can get the clip, I'll share it with you, say that his numbers haven't budged, even with the war in Iran. His numbers haven't budged. Harry comes out, and by the way, he's the numbers guy on CNN. So you want to talk numbers? Let's talk about Democrat numbers, Harry said.
How are voters feeling about Democrats right now?
Yeah, I mean, Democrats in the minds of the American public are lower than the Dead Sea. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look. The net approval rating for Democrats in Congress, you said it, Kate Baldwin, the lowest ever. Look at this. Overall, they are 55 points underwater. Their approval rating is south of 20%. It's even worse when you look at independents. Look at this. Negative 61 points. That means that their approval rating is 61 points lower than their disapproval rating. Quinnipiac has been polling this question for the better part of the 21st century. They have never found Democrats, at least those in Congress, in worse shape than they are right now.
How are
Democrats have a problem? Because people are on them. They understand what's going. In fact, I don't know if you've been watching this whole like DHS shutdown, and this is TSA, this is the rest there. People are on. In fact, the latest comes that 10, and CBS is reporting this. How about that? 10 major U.S. airlines and their CEOs are demanding that Congress end the funding standoff and pay the TSA workers. It's killing these airlines. In a letter, they claim 93% of Americans support paying aviation workers during government shut. Well, of course they do, because these are essential jobs. Nothing moves if you don't pay these guys. And why should they be caught in the crosshairs? In fact, let me put it to you this way. I think Congress should go without a paycheck before any of these government workers do. And TSA, by the way, they largely are a Democrat, like their union is a Democrat supportive union. Every time you get felt up, just remember that. But they had thousands standing around. Actually, I've had pretty good interactions with them here locally, and even some of the other places I've flown recently. So I got no complaints. But I'll tell you, I think these people ought to get paid. I think it's a crime that they're not.
The CEOs of 10 major U.S. airlines are demanding Congress end a funding standoff and pay its TSA workers. In a letter, they claim 93% of Americans support paying aviation workers during government shutdowns. CBS's Tim McNicholas is at Newark International with the latest developments. Tim.
Good evening, Derica. People are waiting hours to get through security at some airports, and TSA officers say they're struggling to pay their bills. Those airline CEOs describe it as unacceptable, and many travelers agree.
TSA staffing challenges are colliding with a spring break travel rush, made even worse by a weekend snowstorm in the Midwest.
Absolute mayhem, if you ask me.
More than 300 TSA officers have resigned since the partial shutdown started, and unscheduled absences have doubled, according to the federal government. President Trump blames the funding lapse on Democrats who refused to approve the Department of Homeland Security's budget unless GOP lawmakers and the White House agree to changes to ICE, including requirements for agents to wear IDs and remove their masks.
Get these guys paid.
Chris Sununu is the CEO of Airlines for America, the trade group that represents the airlines, urging Congress to act.
Please pay these employees. Have your political fights on the side, but don't drag down the entire traveling American public because of it.
The TSA says it's adjusting operations to deal with the staffing constraints.
I think the longer it goes, more and more TSOs, as they're called, will call out and not show up for work.
Well, what do? If you can't make any money, if you can't feed your family, what do? Do you go like drive Uber while you call out? Like, I don't know. It's just, this whole thing is criminal to me. It's just criminal. You should never be holding these people hostage in such a way. And by the way, the reason this is at the top of the list on CBS News right now is because this is the pain people can see and they can feel. You want to go to spring break, you can feel this. But you know what's even worse? Is I don't know if TSA ever caught any bombers or anything like that. And maybe they did. I don't know. But what's even worse is that whole Department of Homeland Security and the work that they do to keep people safe that you never hear about, you're saying you're not paying those people either. And meanwhile, we're under bigger threat than we've been in years because Biden left the border open, because we are finally cutting the head off the snake right now. And all of these things that we're doing, we've seen terrorist attacks in the last several weeks. And Democrats don't want to fund these people. It's absolute. It's the whole thing is absolutely criminal. Want an update on Operation Epic Fury? Speaking of which, we'll get into the president and some more polling, just to show you the popularity, et cetera, and what they're trying to do coming up here in a second.
We had some very good results today, as you probably heard, in Iran. Very strong results militarily. So
this is kind of hard to hear, so what I'll do is I'll just sort of tell you what he said, because it's kind of hard to navigate through. But he says we had some very good results. Iran wants to negotiate. I think here's the problem, though. I don't know who you negotiate with there. I don't think that supreme leader is alive anymore. He goes on to say, we will finish the job. Here's another account, as I mentioned, the polling numbers. And listen for this question. There's a reason why they're asking him this question. Last week, the reporter says, you said you were nowhere near sending ground troops to the Middle East. Listen to this response.
That we are nowhere near sending ground troops to the Middle East.
I don't talk to people like you about that. I mean, why would I tell you I'm sending or not sending? I don't talk about military strategy. Who would talk about it? I mean, who would answer a question like that?
Do you have a comment on this?
I'm not. This is again goes back to the whole idea. He's never going to show his cards. Why would he say? Why would he say what he's going to or not do? Now, I think he would rather not. But he always says, and he always will say this, I'm going to leave every option on the table. Because if you don't have that threat, then you don't know what to do. And what does ground troops look like? This is what you have to realize is he is not fighting the same way that past presidents have fought. This is not the same. Even if you call it a war or whatever you want to call it, it's not the same. It's a completely different scenario. if you look at what he does, you go in, you hit him as hard as you can. You don't hold anything back. You decapitate. You cut the head of the snake off, and you move on. That's what he did in Venezuela. It probably won't even have to do it in Cuba right now. And Iran is feeling that pain as we speak. Now, I saw somebody ask about the Strait of Hormuz. How come we don't have complete control? Well, that area, what you're dealing with is a lot of sort of insurgent, small sort of drone strike attacks, things that can be effective in taking out those tankers. That's a lot bigger than even if you put, ground troops in, and if you did this, that, and the other thing. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around that. I don't know, and I'll try and maybe get somebody to come on talk about this a little bit more, about how you would actually have to do that. I think it would have to be more surgical. I think there would be like specific special forces units that would be used. But it is not business as usual. It is not business as usual. So you're not going to see, and that's the other thing. And Jason, this is exactly, I think, how every one of us feel. He says, I hate war. I hate Americans dying in faraway places. I think we all feel that way. And so when people say war, they have an old sort of idea of what that sort of neocon and how it all worked, which is, we get into these long, extended, drawn out, because they're just money making for these military industrial complex organizations and corporations, etc. Nobody wants that anymore. Left, right, nobody wants that. Well, the left really wanted that in the Ukraine. It's hard for me to say that because they were like anti-war, but they were so pro-war, the left was with Ukraine. Isn't that interesting? We don't want war. We don't want war. As conservatives, there are some hawks that really love it. But I will tell you, more than anything, we don't. And again, what you have to admit about this war is that Trump didn't start a war. He's trying to end one, a 50-year ongoing war. So, Jason, you're paying $5 a gallon for gas because of the lefties in your state, unfortunately. So we have to be clear. We have to be realistic about these things. We can't just lump things together. We have to be fair about this. But at the same time, I think what you're watching play out here is a president who is doing what he said he was going to do. And I know a lot of people have questioned that. I disagree. I mean, a guy for decades has said he was going to do what he did in Iran. Finally did it. Actually got it done. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Some of this is wait and see. I don't know what's going to happen. Anybody that tells you they is just full of it. I'm sorry. It's just you can't possibly know. And I can tell you what I think. I can tell you what I get a good sense of. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to do the digging. And a lot of this, we're just going to have to give it to God. And I know some of you don't want to hear that, but that's a part of it. All right. A little more common sense, a little more truth, logic, and common sense from an unlikely source, Bill Maher. Now, I actually like Bill. I don't agree with him on everything, but who do you agree with everybody on anything? It would be boring if we did all the time. However, I do like Bill. I'm telling you why. I think he's honest. Again, he's wrong about quite a bit, but I think he really feels the way he feels about some of these things. This is Bill ripping some to shreds.
Democrats must recognize that Zohran Mamdani is the future of the party. Unfortunately, it's the Republican Party. We've run this experiment many times, and the results are always obvious. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century or any century, a fucking mess.
Again, I apologize for the language, but that's possible when you're dealing with Bill. So if you need to turn it down, I understand.
It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening.
Oh, have you seen the video? And God bless him. Have you seen the video of Mom Donnie and the rest of them doing their iftar dinner? Well, that's a Muslim. I don't know if you know. If you would have told people on 9/12, if you would have told people on 9/12 that there was going to be this type of, they're going to be, but this is not AI. What you're about to see is not AI. At first, when I first saw this, I wondered, well, that looks kind of funky. Is that AI or no? What you're watching actually took place inside City Hall there in New York City. If you would have told people on 9/12 this was going to happen, they would have thought you're crazy.
You want to make some of that?
A moment where you're asking yourself how you can reconnect to growing up with being taught.
They're all sitting on prayer rugs on the floor, eating probably with their hands and their fingers. Wow, folks. This is what it looks like to be conquered. We got to say it. It's pretty plain. This is what it looks like to be conquered. That's New York City. And we'll tell you this, beyond the, because that's the whole other piece of it, is the socialism piece. But the Islamist, the radical Islamist socialist piece, you put those two together, you have a recipe for a nuclear disaster. And it's only the biggest city in our country. So, hey, nothing to see here, folks. Thanks for sharing the stream today. If you haven't already done so, please do it now. We're on Facebook. Help us break the algorithm. Share. We appreciate you making that happen for us today. Man, so many great people doing that. And when you do, we're going to put you in a running to grab something cool out of the store, Justin store at justinbarkley.com. All kinds of great goodies, tees, mugs, sweatshirts. There's just some hoodies in there that might be nice for this time of year. Yeah, even the Gulf of America stuff still inside right now as we speak at the Justin store. When you go to justinbarkley.com. Congratulations today to Jasper Jacobs. Thank you, Jasper. You're our winner today for sharing the show. Thank you for sharing. Send me an email and I make sure that you get hooked up with something cool from inside. Justin at justinbarkley.com. Make it a great one, folks. God bless.
I'm Dr. Kirk Elliott, founder of Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. After being in the industry for more than a decade, I knew there was a better way. It's an exciting time to invest in gold and silver with the most significant bull market I've ever seen. But please don't overpay for your stuff. At KEPM, we focus on low-cost bullion only, and we don't charge a commission when you sell. We would love to connect with you, so call our office at 720-605-3900
or go to goldwithjustin.com today. I don't know if you caught the latest podcast episode with Maha Missy over the weekend, but it was another big one. CIA with documents and a cure that they've sat on for decades. And it's insane, but it's just the latest story du jour, the Maha update of the day. There's always some really good things happening as we try to make America healthy again, one person at a time. By the way, my mission continues with some positive updates. Down nearly 30 pounds now, feeling great, better than ever. I got the energy that I just haven't had in forever, and I feel amazing. No issues with the joints. That's always great. But folks, going shopping in your own closet for clothes that you used to be able to wear, that's what my wife Lizzie loves about this whole thing. And yeah, we've actually had to do some shopping at some actual stores as well. She feels great. We feel great. And if you want to join us in the fight, maybe you got a couple of pounds you want to lose for spring break, yeah? Or get ready for the summer, or it's just time to start feeling better again. Join us and so many other folks that have seen tremendous results and progress. You'll see all the before and after photos. You'll hear all the testimonies when you go to healthwithjustin.com and find out how you can take your life back today. Healthwithjustin.com or call Maha, Missy, and Charity on the team at 269-964-4044. That's 269-964-4044. And take your life back today. God bless.